So with the scene open, what we're going to use is Probuilder, which is included with the project, the 3D Game Kit Lite, to actually build our scene. I actually had an issue before when I was building the scene and it kind of cut out, so I'm going to redo this. But building the scene is super simple. You'll notice in the scene we've got our character, as well as the plane, as well as all these other bits that we actually don't even really care about at this moment. We can probably turn off the depth volume. That might cause us some issues while we're building our scene. So we're just going to go ahead and turn that off. Okay, so turn your depth volume off, but everything else keep open. Everything from level assets down is going to be what we're going to be using. Okay. Now they had a clever way of organizing in this hierarchy where they used game objects to actually be the definers between how they organize everything in here, which makes perfect sense. They're not even used in the game, but they're nice little markers in here to see where everything is. So you notice they've got gameplay elements, game utilities, UI, characters, and level assets. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is getting rid of the plane and creating our own level for her to run on. We also want to make sure that anything we create that's traversal, so anything that she runs on, like a level piece or platforms or anything like that, we needed to mark it as environment in our layers, okay? And that's just for future use, but as long as that's marked, it should be okay. So we're gonna go ahead and turn off our plane. I'll come in here, I'm gonna turn that off. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Probuilder to actually build the elements that she's going to run on. I've also downloaded some textures, which I just got from the asset store. These were 3 free textures from, I go to the asset store here. If I just type in free textures, I downloaded the Glover Games free ground textures pack. There's 3 free ones. There's rock, there's grass, and there's dirt. All right, perfect for what I'm doing for creating a level design for now. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my level here. Now what I'm gonna use is, this package comes pre-packaged with Probuilder, post-processing, polybrush, things of that nature. We're going to use those in our scene. You'll notice in here, if I go up to my tools, I've got polybrush, filter. This is another level of detail plugin, which we don't need for this particular project, but great if you're building your own. But we're going to be using the Probuilder function. I'll lightly touch on polybrush, which is also built by the Probuilder team, because it lets you do some nice sculpting. But beware, it is still in beta, even though they included it with this project. And if you do, if you're going to use it, save and save often. I had my project crash earlier, and I was doing a lot of work to show you guys when I was using the polybrush tool. So just be aware of that. It does cause crashes every now and then if you use it in the scene. I will use it just to show you, like, you can do some really nice sculpting very, very quickly, especially for rocks and things of that nature. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start with Probuilder. And in the Probuilder, or so in Tools, go to Probuilder, Probuilder window. Okay, when you do that, you're going to get this little Probuilder window. It might come in something looking like that. I like to dock this in my scene view, so it just makes it easier to access, so it's not this floating window that's around your scene. I just put it right in here, just kind of drag it over to the side, and then I just kind of shrink it up. And this just gives me a nice, almost like toolbar to access all the Probuilder functions for. It'll stay docked within your scene, you won't lose it, and it's just nice to have it there. And you can switch it to, let's see, I don't know if you right click it, you can use icon mode, they have icons, or you can just use text mode. I've been using Probuilder a while, so I do like to use icon mode, but for the purpose of what we're doing, because you guys are learning, we'll use the text mode, just because you can read exactly what everything is. So there's really no confusion, because you can see, okay, new shape, new poly shape, smoothing, etc., 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 right? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is build an area that our character here, we'll see which way she's facing. If I look here, she's facing that direction. So she should be starting facing that way. You'll notice the Z axis is facing forward. So if I'm correct, that's where she'll be facing when the level starts. And to test that theory, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new shape here. We'll just make a cube. You'll see it gives me this little preview shape. We'll say build cube. All right, so now we have a Probuilder cube in our scene. Okay, to edit it, you'll notice I have, anytime I create anything in Probuilder, I have vertex selection, edge selection, and face selection. So to edit this cube, if I go to my face selection and just click on a face of the cube, I can now drag this cube out to be a piece, to basically create a custom shape for the level. All right. If I go to object mode, this one right here, I can actually click on it and move the entire piece. So just to test the theory, let's just take that and also duplicate it, move it up. I'm going to click on the faces here. Just going to drag those down, like a little platform so you can jump on here. Move that in. And we'll just drag that down. Okay. So if all goes well, when I start this, I should see that, so I can run over to it. I'm going to press play. Oh, forgot to do one very, very important thing. I'm glad it actually did this. You can see she's falling now. I turned off the death volume. And the reason she's falling is because I forgot to set the objects I created, so this platform and this platform, to my layer. So right here, like I said before, you got to make sure it's set on layer. If you don't do that, she will fall through for it. You need to tell Unity, or you need to tell the character in her code that she's on an environment layer. So if I click on this cube and I go to layer, and then I change it to environment, and I click on this cube, and I go to layer, and I change it to environment, then I press play. There we go. There we are. And actually, I was wrong. Looks like the camera started looking at her, and then you can turn around. She actually is facing that direction, but the way it works in the game that they've set up is the camera kind of is like an intro camera. So you're actually facing the character, and then as you move your mouse, then you can go behind the character. So she actually is facing the right direction when it starts, but the camera itself is looking at her as she kind of enters the stage, which makes sense. It's kind of an intro to the character. You don't want to see the back of the character. You want to see the front of the character, and then you move around and start moving, which is kind of a nice unveil as well. A lot of games will do that. So yeah, there you have it, right? We've got our first little traversal area with some pieces I can jump on, right? So if I was going to do some quick level stuff, now that I have these Probuilder pieces, very, very simplistic ones, I could just Control D, right? Control D and just move these around. Let's make a little platform right here. Control D, etc. Right? So, in its most basic form, I've already created a very, very, very simplistic level where my character can just kind of jump around. Right? Very, very simple. Obviously, I want you guys to take a little more work than that. Oh, there we go. Right? Falling to my death. Okay. So what we're going to do is basically using those basic principles, we're going to take this whole thing further and build out an entire level with textures and fun stuff that we want included in the final, right? So, what I've requested of you guys is basically create, using Probuilder, your own level design using these pieces. Now, what we can do, because we have all these pieces in Probuilder, is we can actually kind of customize them, add textures to them, and make them even cooler, right? So we'll just use this little stretch here as the demo, just kind of a demo to show you what you can do with Probuilder. I'll use this little section I've created so far. We'll add some textures to it. We'll do some custom sculpting and maybe add some extra little pieces in here. Maybe I'll put some lava in the middle right there and do some little ridges on the side, right? So to get started, first thing I'm going to do is add some textures to these pieces, right? Probuilder has a built-in material editor. There's two ways to do it. You can actually just drag a material right onto the piece from your project, right? That's good, but the best way to do it is actually set up the material editor in Probuilder to reference these materials. That way you can select faces and have certain faces select materials instead of the entire object. Now to do that, you're just going to open the material editor in Probuilder, which is right here. Okay. Once you do that, you're going to get this little window, material editor. And these are kind of quick materials you can use. You see, at first, it's already set up as default prototype. That's this little prototype material that Probuilder gives you that you can use to kind of see the grid spacing of the elements you create. It's really helpful if you're doing, fine-tune modeling. I also recommend downloading ProGrids if you want stuff that snaps together, like grid to grid snaps together. If you go to the asset store and just type in ProGrids, it's from the Probuilder guys, which are now Unity. But if I type ProGrids, this right here, ProGrids 2, it's funny, it says install via package manager, but it is actually not in the package manager to my knowledge. It's not in there yet. Probuilder's in there, but ProGrids is not. Let's see. Oh no, they did add. Oh, that's new. Look, they did add it to package manager. It wasn't in there before, but it is. So version 3 of ProGrids. So if you want ProGrids, install that in the package manager. Super nice for snapping, but you don't need it for the purpose of this demo. Come back to my scene here. So I need to set up some materials. So we have these 3 nice materials that I downloaded from the asset store, right? I've got sand, rock, and grass, right? So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add in, I just dragged it to my Alt 2. There's my sand. My Alt 3 is going to be my rock. And my Alt 4 is going to be my grass, right? So we'll just use these 3 materials to build our level, right? We've got some grass, got some rock, and we've got some sand. These are some pretty great, nice, free PBR textures. They're good for just easily putting something together. I mean, they're free. Go ahead and use them. You can use them for your own games, like whatever. Okay, so I need to customize this, right? I've got this cube as my ground right now, but we need to obviously add a texture to it, add some, some detail to it so it isn't just like a flat surface. Make it feel like a rocky plain or ridge or something like that, right? So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to first click on my Probuilder object. I'm going to open up my material editor again. So you'll see Alt 2 is sand, right? So if I click on this object and I just go Alt 2, boom, it'll just set up sand as my material. Now, I don't know if I really enjoy what's happening with the repetition of this particular texture. It seems a little, you can really see the pattern. So I'm going to go into my actual sand material and just kind of edit that. It's just the tiling. Let's fix that and put it at like 0.25 on the X and the Y. There we go. That looks a lot better. You don't really see the tiling now. All right, so we're going to press play. There we go. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right. So we've got this little sandy area we can run around on, and our little platforms. All right. Now, one of the things you want to do when you're building levels, or even just quick levels, is reuse pieces. So we're going to build this kind of intro area, this little sand piece right here. I'm going to do some interesting things to it, but what I want to do is just reuse it for the other side as well. So let's just come here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one over here. And here what I'm going to do is, first things first, save my scene. Let's go into our scenes. And we'll just say, what are we going to call this? Let's just call it Matt's scene. There we go. Save. So save and save often. Unity, like any other software, will crash. Things happen, especially when you're using, plugins and things of that nature. Issues will arise here and there. So you want to just make sure that you keep on top of it and save and save often. Okay. So let's go ahead and edit this, right? We've got this nice cube as our intro piece. Let's go ahead and subdivide it. So you notice in the Probuilder menu right here, we have our subdivide object tool. So if I do this, subdivide, you'll see it's kind of adding more geometry into this cube. Subdivide it again. Each time you do it, it kind of multiplies it by a factor of 2. All right, so that's pretty good. We'll keep it at that. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Polybrush to actually sculpt this particular plane into something I can use. So to do that, I'm going to go into my tools, go to polybrush window. It's this thing right here. And very, very easily, I'm just going to click on my object, increase my brush size a little bit, and maybe I'll just tap around on it a little bit, right? Just kind of pull out the side right there, side right there. Polybrush is prone to crashing, so just be careful if you're using it a lot. It's kind of finicky, but it works pretty well. Another thing you could do is just grab selections in Probuilder and move it that way. So if I close my polybrush window and go back to Probuilder, click on, let's say, the vertex tool, you could just select some verts and just move those by hand. Could do that as well. I wish there was a soft selection, but there isn't, but there is in polybrush, which is this one. So again, you could just come in here and just start kind of tapping around in here, right? So a really, really quick way to get some interesting geometry without even doing too much work. All right, so if I hit play, I've only just begun, but I've got this ground that has kind of some nice undulation to it without even doing hardly any work. I mean, I really haven't done anything. I've just taken a cube, subdivided it, and just kind of did some basic sculpting on it, right? But as you can see already, it looks much better than, you know, just some simple geometry, right? We have simple geometry, but we have it to where it looks decent, right? So to take that further, what I could do is first, let's go ahead and duplicate this piece. Just select it, duplicate it. I just Control D, I pulled it out to the side right here. So let's bring it right there. Okay. All right. So I've got our initial area. I've got this plane in the distance, and I've got these little platforms I made. Okay. Now, to fill this in, we might as well add some rock to the sides of this and just kind of detail elements just to flesh it out. There's a couple things I want to do to kind of flesh out this scene where it's at so far. One is add a Unity terrain in here. So what I want you to do is combine using Probuilder elements like what we're making here with Unity terrain. That'll give you kind of a really nice mix of just some great tools to help build your environment. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and create a quick Unity terrain. I'm going to come into Tools. I'm going to go to, I'm sorry, not Tools. I'm going to go to Game Object, 3D Object, and click Terrain. Okay, now it's going to bring in this massive terrain, right? We're going to have to move that to where it needs to be in your level. That is a ginormous terrain, a little too big for what we actually need for our particular level, but that's easy to fix. So I moved my terrain so my particular level sits in the middle of it. Let's just zoom in right here. I'm going to go ahead and actually shrink this down. So I'm just going to go into the settings of my terrain, and the width, the length, and the height, we're going to go ahead and change those. Really are more concerned with the width and the length. We're going to bring those down to 100 by 100. Let's see, it kind of moved it over here, way in the distance. Bring that back here. We don't need this massive terrain because we're not designing a hugely massive level, just a quick little area. Let's just come in here. This. Okay. Now I'm going to pull this up to be kind of like mountain ranges. So what I'm going to need to do is just bring my terrain down a little bit so I have an area to kind of pull up from. So I'm going to surround these little walkways that I've made with Unity terrain. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to click my terrain. I'm going to come into my sculpting settings, and right here I have smooth height, right? I'm going to go ahead and raise or lower terrain, which is under the drop down arrow in your terrain settings. I'm going to increase my brush size to something a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to start tapping around my scene here. And I can change the brush size a little bit. You can see I can kind of build around the level I just made to kind of fill in. You just want to fill in the gaps, right? I'm just kind of just coming in here and just tapping on that terrain just to kind of fill in the gaps. Right. Kind of gives you a more natural approach. Now the great thing about using terrain on the edges like this, come in here and smooth this out a little bit. With the height, we can lower the terrain a little bit. You'll see we have shift and left click to lower. So if we hold shift, we can actually bring these parts down a little bit or up as needed. And I love how it gives you this little preview now. That's pretty nice how it does that. And we just push and pull as needed around our environment. All right, so I'm in here. They've really improved the terrain functions in Unity 2019. So highly recommend playing around with that. I'm just going to come in here and now let's build a little area around where we're going to traverse to. I'll just be quick here. Let's just kind of build this out. I'm just doing a real quick, just clicking around my little Probuilder pieces here. That. Oh, a little high. And again, if I raise too high, I just hold shift and I just kind of stamp it down. Right. Something like that. Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rock texture to my terrain. So I can come in here to my paint texture, right? And what we want to do is we actually want to create a terrain layer that we can actually paint on. So under the paint texture settings, I'm going to click on edit terrain layers. We're going to go create layer. When I do that, it's going to say select texture 2D, right? We need to find the texture for this rock that we're working with. So I'm just going to come in here, open up my rock texture, click on the albedo slot, this texture right here, rock 1 diffuse. Okay, that's what we're looking for, rock 1 diffuse original.bmp. I'm going to go back to my terrain. I'm going to click on my edit terrain layers. We're going to create a layer. I'm going to go rock 1. There it is, diffuse original. We'll use that. There we go. There's our rock. All right. You can actually edit. One second. Where's the? There we go. If I click on that layer, and open that up. And here I can add in those slots that they add for the actual specularity and normals of that particular texture. So the normals, I can drag those in. Now this is all from that original texture we created, right? So drag the normals in, and I can mess with the specular and smoothness if I need to. All right, so now if I play the level, you'll see I've got this little Probuilder area that we created, as well as the terrain that's on the sides. You'll notice I'm running right through the terrain, right? If I go up to the edges, you see how I kind of fall right into it? That's because we did not set the terrain to environment. And escape, turn this off. I'm going to click on my terrain. I'm going to go to my layer settings and then click environment. Now if I press play, go up to that. Oh, I run right into it. Boom. I can actually even jump on it if I wanted to. terrain, these little areas to run on. All right, little platforms right here. Oh, just made it. Okay. So there we go. We're already testing a level, right? Now, what I like using the terrain for is just doing blending on the edges of things. So because we can add these paint layers in our terrain, I can come in and I can add little sand on the side right here to make it kind of blend in with the Probuilder object that we created. So this is a little more advanced, but I'll show you what I do and when I use terrain with Probuilder objects to kind of give the illusion that it kind of marries a little bit better with the texture we have on this terrain right here. Because right now it's pretty jarring, right? We've got this massive seam that follows along with the mountains that we've created. So it's pretty jarring. We've got rocks and then sand, right? Let's try to fix that a little bit. I'm gonna come into my paint settings, under paint texture, go ahead and reduce my brush size a little bit. Probably something like that. We need to add another layer with our sand. So I'm gonna go edit terrain layers. I'm gonna go add layer, or not, I'm sorry. We'll go create layer, there we go. We're gonna add in sand, which is diffuse original sand 1. There's our sand. I'm gonna open that up. We're gonna find that in our, if you ever need to find anything in Unity, always use the search function. We know it's sand, so let's find that. Sand 1, there's our normal map. Let's add that into our normal map settings. And we can mess with our specularity a little bit. Go ahead and click on this. So now that I have these two terrain layers, I can swap back and forth with how they appear on the map. So I can actually paint this texture of sand into this terrain. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this brush a little bit smaller. There we go, like that. Click the sand. See, I can come in here. I can kind of paint a little bit of that sand on the edge right here. So when I do that, see how that, like, you still see the seam, but you can blend it a lot better. It's a little more accepting on the eye than having just rock sand, right? Now we have like sand that kind of blends into the sand that's on the actual terrain. All right, so just come in here. I'm just gonna go around the actual rock right here. Now you don't have to do this for your project, but this is just something, a little technique I use that you guys might enjoy. And just come in there, right? You just kind of add that sediment so it feels like it's part of it. All right, just helps kind of sell the item a little bit better. And here I can always mess with the metallic settings, and then with the specular, I need to. There, now if I press play, see how that sand just kind of just helps it feel like it actually belongs instead of just like that jarring line, right? Now to make that blend even more, you'd put like rocks and plants and things like that kind of over that seam to kind of help with that blend, or maybe even pieces of more rock. Let's do that real quick, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another little Probuilder object. So I'm going to come in here and make a new shape. Let's go ahead and bring that up a little bit so we can see it. This one doesn't have to be too big. We'll just use build cube. Come in here, and we'll just go ahead and edit that ever so slightly right there. Again, I'm just using the edit functions at the top right here. And then I'm going to go back into my textures. We'll grab the material. Let's just throw a rock on this guy, like that. And then if I subdivide this piece, so let's go ahead and subdivide it a couple of times. And then I'll use the, well, first I'll use the save function to save my level. Then I'm going to come in and add the Pro Tools polybrush window. And I'll just do some quick sculpting on this little piece to make it feel like more of a rock, right? Polybrush is kind of finicky. Again, it's a beta piece of software, but it works really good. You can see I can just kind of come in here and do some real quick sculpting to kind of let's just see. It feels more like a rock. We'll just kind of a little bit more here. Let's pull off the edge right there. Right here. It's kind of weird. You kind of have to like turn it on and off sometimes. If you run into that issue, it might happen. There we go. All right, that's good. All right. So I can use the smoothing function to kind of smooth that out. There we go. A nice smooth normal rock. Bring that in here. I can just kind of put these, just duplicate it. Again, you want to think about using these almost like stamps, right? Put that right there. You can rotate it a little bit. Doesn't feel like the same as the last rock. And then I can go ahead and duplicate this guy. Put it out on the edge. Maybe we'll duplicate it again. Rotate it. All right. And you know, let's just select all those rocks. Duplicate them again. Oops. Hit D. All those guys down here. Immediately, we've got some rocks on the other side. Looks like this one could be used to kind of fill in gaps on this side. Right? Just use and reuse. Super important when you're building levels and things of that nature. Right. There's a lot of good prefab placement tools as well on the asset store for kind of reusing objects. So that looks good. Okay. Maybe I'll just bring a couple of these. Oops. To the front here. There we go. That looks great. Okay. So we'll come in here, we'll press play. And there we go. See? Just kind of adds that extra bit of realism. Really kind of had some quick detail and level. I haven't done really a lot of work to this at all, but already it's starting to get fleshed out. It's starting to feel like something. And again, you'll notice I'm running right through it, right? So what did I do? I didn't put it to environment. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my level. I'm gonna click each one of these. I'm gonna set their layer to environment. Go ahead and change that to environment. There we go. So if I go here, press play. There we go. See, jump right on those rocks. All right. So essentially, that's what you're going to be doing for your level. We're going to be, adding a ton of pieces just to kind of build out your own little piece of a level. I want to see what you guys can do using Probuilder as well as Unity Terrain, kind of merging the two and just having fun creating a cool environment. If you follow along with this tutorial, you're going to get pretty far in terms of what you need to do to create your own level. Feel free to go on the asset store and add any bits you need and download them, little pieces. We'll say right here, let's say I wanted to add a little lava area in here. I can just come into my new shape. Here, let's just drag this up into our scene so we can see it. Something like that. Build our cube. Let's go ahead and edit it. Let's make this quick lava, right? Whatever texture the asset store can give us. Bring this in, pull this out right here. Just fill up this little area. Okay. Let's see, we may actually do a little more sculpting on this terrain to just kind of pull up those sides. Whoa, the big. There we go. Just fill those in. And you can even do stuff where, let's say you have like a lava area, you could just paint the middle here. That terrain's gonna come up in the middle, right? Do a little island in the center. And you get kind of creative with how your terrain appears in your level. And then do things like, you know what, let's add another one of those rocks, right? Put that rock down there. And kind of mask, you know, people won't even realize that it's a mixture of the two, right? Okay. Let's go ahead and check that out real quick. There's our lava area. We can see it. Now we just need to texture it, right? Super easy. We can go to the asset store. Let's just find lava texture. Gotta be a free lava texture, right? Let's change it to free. Yeah, that'll do. Cracked stone, free molten road material. We want that. Let's see, maybe that's what we want. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, molten road. I don't know if that's what we need, but yeah, let's go for it. Let's download it, see what happens. Put this in our project. Let's see what they give us. Let's just download that. Make this our lava. We'll go from there. There we go. Import it. Import. There's some pretty big textures. I don't know if I should grab this one, but it's fine. 4K textures. This will be interesting. Brought those textures in pretty quick. All right. So we'll go to, what was that? That was Casual 2D. Let's see what they have here. For free. Molten Road materials. Ah, there we go. Perfect. We have material. So we're seeing. Let's just drag it on that. Great. Actually looks pretty good. And then what I'll do is I'm going to change the tiling. Let's do 0.25. There we go. Oh, it's a molten road, so that's got the road lines in there. I don't know if I love that, but I'll just run with it. I do need to make that bigger just to... Ugh. Hate those road lines. Let's just see if I can kind of move that around. Let's see. Yeesh. I don't like those red lines. I didn't realize it was a molten road, but that's fine. Let's just see if we can kind of get away with this. Let's see. Let's just make that. And this is just me being super hacky and using free textures out the asset store to try and get as far as I can. Right? We'll go 5. And 5. There we go. Those lines. The red lines out of the way. There we go. I wonder if I make this 06, I get a little more detail without seeing those. There we go. Let's stretch it out a little bit. There we go. Actually looks pretty good. Come in here. It's a 4K texture, so you have tons of details. So we can just zoom in on a little area on it. There we go, right? Got our little molten area. And it looks pretty good, right? Now to kind of jazz that up, right, we could just come in and add some lighting to that area to make it a little more exciting. So I could just come in and game object, go to lights, add some point lights. Put one right there. Make it super intense. We'll add some shadows too. There we go. We'll add another one on this side. That's always fun. All right. To make that really pop, if I click on that texture, I don't know if it has an emissive. It does have an emissive. So on the emissive settings of the texture, it looks like it only lets me go so far with it, but that's fine. Looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and play that. There you go. All right, so super quickly I have a little lava area, kind of a start area. All right, some simple little platforms. And I could just rinse and repeat this entire thing to make an entire level if I needed to. All right, but just some quick elements. I mean, this took me the better part of, the length of this video to get something fairly cool done. Now, the next thing I want to do is obviously stylize these platforms and do the exact same procedure I did with the terrain and these initial kind of Probuilder pieces. But you can see really quickly, you can kind of put something together that looks really, really cool without doing much work. So I look forward to seeing what you guys do on your projects, and hopefully this video helps you out. Try to cover all the points that, help, but if you have any issues with Probuilder or any of that, reference the videos that I have in the modules. Those are really, really good just to kind of get your feet wet and designing with these tools. But this should help you out a ton for the demo. Now, to turn in the project, once you're done with your scene, all you're going to do is go to File, Build Settings. Okay, it's going to have this window right here. We're going to add in, so we're going to turn off the example scene that they have. We're going to go in and add our open scene, so matte scene. We want to make sure that's the only scene in here that's checked, right? We're going to do a PC build, and then you're going to say build. It's going to ask you what folder you want to put it in. You select that folder, it's going to build an exe file, and you're going to turn that file in a zip file into me, okay? I don't want to see like your entire Unity projects. I just want to play that build file. So technically I'll get an exe file that I can just load up, and I can go ahead and start playing. Okay, so hopefully this helped out, and look forward to seeing what you guys are doing. You guys are doing great work so far, and we will go from there.